Welcome to my dad's devlog.
Hey guys, welcome back. It's a new week. Thanksgiving is over. Had a great time with my family. Had a great little getaway to relieve some stress and all the work and things that go on with everyday life. But I'm back and we're on for a whole new development week. Hopefully I'm going to be around. I might go to see my dad or I might stay, but today's Monday. It's about after lunchtime here, and I just got done doing the video for the week before Thanksgiving. I never really put it together, so I went ahead and put that on here, and so that video is in the archives. But for this week, I'm continuing the work from last week. If you don't recall, I was working on the offensive play calling and getting really the plays to show up in different types of categories and such, but it was just the offensive plays. So what I did is I worked on some of the kickoff plays, the kick return, the kickoff, and they're very simple, obviously, but I had those added in the play calling tool, and I went ahead and put them in the game, and I had to do some work to get them to show up correctly, and so I'm building it out. So I started with the offense. Now I've done the kickoff and kick return. Then I'm going to have to go into the other formations like defense, special teams. And if we look at the Trello chart here, Trello board, you can see that I have an update that I left myself, luckily, because I started looking around and I'm like, wait a second, where did I leave off? And when you're doing code, a lot of times you forget what you did if you're away for too long. And I was away for about 10 days. So I have my update. It looks like the kickoff plays are working. And the next thing I have to do is get the defensive plays to start working. And to kick that off, I have to get the play editor to allow for defensive plays to be created. So it's not going to be too much work, but defensive plays are obviously different. You're going to have zones, blitzes, man, rolls. And I need to make sure that instead of having receivers and running plays, that the play editor tool will allow you to read and change and create defensive plays. And then those are going to export out just like the offensive plays and the kickoff plays into the game. And then I have to get those working. So I'm going to continue the work that I did last 2 weeks ago and get the defensive plays working. So we'll see how far I get today. I already spent the morning working on the video from 2 weeks ago. And that should be on YouTube now, so check that out if you haven't already. And then we're going to just keep running. So stay with me, and I'll be back in a bit with an update. So after all that coding and working on the defense for the play calling tool, it was a late night. Yesterday was not the best day in terms of productivity. I had to take care of my son. There were a couple of personal things going on. So I didn't get as much done as I wanted to, as I always say. I feel like I'm always saying that, but that's just the way it goes. But today is Tuesday morning, and I did do some work last night and yesterday, and I'm going to show you guys what I did. So now in the play calling tool, when you switch over to defense, you can see on the top left how things will change from offensive type options to your defensive, right? So if we let's just go to 4-3 and we create a play here. Right now I have it to where when you pick any one of these buttons, depending on what you pick, it will change the color and the icon. So if you're playing a zone, you're going to get the sphere here, and if you do a spy, you'll get your circle, and a blitz, if you're going to come down here and do a blitz like that, you'll get the green. I have delayed blitz here. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it yet, but I put it there as a placeholder for now. And then really, man, there's not really going to be any kind of graphical line here. Man, it's just the roll. And these rolls are going to end up going into the game. And depending on what role you have and what coordinates you have and what route you're covering, that is where the player is going to, to be and move to. One thing I don't have yet is the actual play art. So if you look here, if I try to pick any of these, they're not showing up in the play art yet, right? So every time you hit save, you're really not getting the plays to show up correctly on here. So now what I'm going to do is get this working correctly, and then once I have all of this looking okay in the creator, the play creator, then I'm going to take all of the code that I created in here and port that over to Legend Bowl so that I have the same, the same plays and the same graphical changes and the roles and everything in the game, and then I can go into Legend Bowl and start working through that. But before I get ahead of myself, I have to get the play art working, and then I have to create a few defensive plays, and then I'll keep moving. So I'll get back to coding now, and I will update in a bit. So now the play art's actually working, and you're going to see it's going to show up here. So I'm going to go ahead and create a play and just make some plays here. And so I have zone, I have man, I have blitz, delayed blitz, which like I said, I might not use that, and then spy and deep zone. So I'm going to throw this guy into a zone. I'll throw these two guys into a deep zone here. And then I'll make this dude be QB spy. I'll put this guy as a delayed blitz, and then I'll just keep this guy as a man for now. So now when I hit save, you're going to see it populates the play art. One thing you're going to notice is that like this guy, it starts to cut off a little bit because the way that I have the plays drawing in here is based on the offense. So what I mean by that, I didn't give it enough room for these circles here, right? So like if I take this guy and bring him all the way up here, you're going to see it cuts off a little bit. So I'm probably going to want to tweak that so that the margin is a little bit more, like the border gives more room for the bigger icons if you're running on a defensive play and showing it in here. So I may need to change that, but the play art's working now. So what I need to do is make sure that it saves correctly in here and it loads correctly. And I mean, I can try it right now while we're looking at it here. So let's call this test defensive play, whatever, test defensive. And then let's go ahead and save it. And then I'll save it in the back end. I think that saved it. Let's see. So I'm not sure. Is that what we had? I can't remember, but it looks like it's showing up. There's test defensive. It looks like it's what I had. So I think it is saving and importing. I'm going to look at that closer next, but then the next step is going to be to bring this over to the Legend Bowl project and start to integrate these defensive plays into the game so that they can show up. So I'll keep coding and moving on, and then I'll get back to you after some more. See you in a bit. All right, so after a good amount of coding today and working hard on the defensive plays, I was able to fix the bleeding over where the edge of the defensive plays were, going through the play art and, cropping. But as I started to bring over the defensive plays into the Legend Bowl code, I noticed that where I left off, number one, there was a bug because I never really tested the CPU versus CPU for the coin toss. And I also didn't test the two-player on these coin toss as well as I thought I did. So I had a bug in there I had to fix, and then I also realized that the kickoff was right where I left off before Thanksgiving. I didn't even get to an offensive or defensive play. And to rewind, what I'm trying to do is to kind of recap here. What I'm trying to do is take the game from only being a one-player game where you play the CPU, and that's all it was built for, to now have the ability to play CPU versus CPU, or one human versus CPU, or two humans, right? Two player. And so the code is being totally revamped and scaled out to be able to handle all of those three scenarios. On top of which, I'm adding in brand new plays and a whole brand new play art, menus, and just totally different interaction with the game, and really making it more advanced than what it was before. So my plan is to go from the beginning of the game when you first start the game all the way through to completing an entire game on the field, right? So that's been my path. And I basically got to a point where I left off on the kickoff play calling, but I really didn't have it working yet. And I also had that bug like I just mentioned. So what I did was I did some coding to get the defensive plays working. I got them over to Legend Bowl. And working in the play call tool, not Legend Bowl. I got him over to Legend Bowl, the code. And then I said, okay, well, I can't get to defense yet because I still have to work through the bug in the coin toss and then the kickoff plays. So I was able to get the kickoff plays kind of working. This is a 2-player view here. I'm using the keyboard right now to kind of go back and forth. But I created a total of 3 kick plays on each side. Middle, left, and right, which I'll probably change the order of these to make them, right or left, middle, and right. But I wanted to get placeholders here so I can see how it looks. And then the next step's going to be tomorrow morning, because it's late now on Tuesday night. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to start off by getting these working with the controllers. And also, when you select your play, then you move on to the next phase. I'm not going to worry about prettying this up yet. I just want to get the functionality working so I can get a full game finished. And when the game is all the way finished through, which is going to take me quite a bit of time, where it's working with 2-player and CPU, as I mentioned, then I'm going to go back and double back and get these menus looking a lot better. But right now is functionality, getting these things in the game and walking through it step by step, piece by piece. So I have a lot of work to do. I'm going to get some rest tonight, and tomorrow I'm going to pick back up with the kickoff menu and see where I get. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Today is Wednesday, and here is the Trello board where I put my notes from yesterday. And like I said last night, I'm working on the kickoff plays. I need to get those working with the controller, offense, defense, as I mentioned. And the plan today is to keep moving towards the goal of getting the inputs working, getting the play calling screens working, getting the new plays in there. And hopefully I can get to offense and defense today and try to get some of those plays working. But one step at a time. So I'm going to kick off some code now. I'm going to get working, and I'll be back in a bit with an update. All right, so now I have the inputs working with the controller for each first player and second player. You can use the analog stick. If you hold it down, it works correctly. And then you can use the D-pad. You can also use the keyboard if you're the first player. So that's working. So next step is to keep moving and get the plays to register so that when you pick a play and you select one, it actually registers the right way and you get the play you wanted, and the game can keep moving. And hopefully we can get the kickoff going and move on to the offense and defensive plays. That's the goal, and I'm going to start working on that now, and hopefully I can get there by lunch. That'd be nice. I'll be back in a bit. All right, so I have it working now where you can actually pick the kickoff plays, and right now I'm showing 2-player here, so you can look at the 2-player choices. So this is player number 2 chose to return, and player number 1 is up here. Obviously each side moves depending on where you move, and that's working. And then if I pick, kickoff, and whatever plays I pick, it's going to end up working. So the plays are registering. They're actually showing up correctly here, but the game breaks because it's still expecting just one player and not two, and then obviously not the CPU versus CPU as I'm trying to do. So this is where I'm at, and it's about lunchtime now, and I'm going to keep working through. I need to now transition from play calling to it working with, depending on what players. Like, see, you get an error now. You don't see it, but an error comes up because it's looking for the first a user-controlled team, which is really not the way I had it. So I'm going to have to start coding now and transition from the play calling over to the actual inputs and how the game is handling which team to, is controlling, which user is controlling which team. Is it CPU? Is it human? So now I'm moving along. And the next step is to work on that. And then once I get that working, then move on to the offensive and defensive plays. So I might be able to get this kind of working where I can get to the playbook by the end of the day, but I also know that the gameplay where you control, where it shows, where it detects, what user's controlling which player, that might be a big animal to tackle. So I might not be back for an update until tomorrow, but I'm going to keep pushing and hopefully I can get some progress. But so far I'm moving along and the game's actually coming back to life, because up to now it's been pretty much dead. So I'm going to get back to work, and I'll see you in a bit. So yesterday was a lot of coding, as I always say, and I worked through the kickoff and getting the plays to show up correctly. And I'm going to walk you through kind of where I'm at now. So I have two controllers here. I'm going to go ahead and just walk you through where I'm at with the gameplay and kind of talk through it as I walk through here. So I'm going to do two teams here, two different controllers. But what I have now is I have the ability to show both players and have the kickoff plays working. And then now I'm basically at a point where when you get to the actual plays, it breaks. So today I'm going to be working on getting the offensive and defensive plays working. And so here you could see that, that both of these are working now, and they work correctly, right? So I'm going to go ahead and just pick whatever plays. And this is the first time, which is pretty cool, first time that Legend Bowl has had two players in the game. So now I'm going to go ahead and kick off with, I guess, the first player here. And now I'm going to control both. And they work. Like, everything's working so far. So now when I catch this ball, I'm going to run it out. And so now two players basically somewhat working. And this is for the kickoff, right? So it's really exciting. I'm really happy about it. But the next step is going to be, like I said, to get this part working, where now you get the formations and the offense and defense and special team plays to work with both the first player and second player, right? So if I start over, this may just break, but I'm gonna try to just do CPU versus CPU, and if it breaks, I'll just go back and restart. But yeah, see, this is all flipped and broken. So let me just start it over. All right, so starting it over, I can do CPU versus CPU, right? And I can just leave it like this, and the game actually runs correctly. So I'm just you can just sit here and just watch it, and I'm gonna let it just play out, because the one thing I like about my game is that everything runs like a real game would run, like a real on the field football game would work. I mean, the players are a full roster. And this is the part that I kind of struggle with, because what makes the game fun? And right now these two players are playing each other as computer versus computer, AI versus AI. And everything here is being chosen like so. And I never had this in the game, right? The flipping of the field right there, I can't stand that it does that, because I don't want to show unrealistic things. But that's just because I'm so OCD about it. But that's an example of, where I want the game to be more more realistic. Like even here, see the guys it's not moving because they haven't gotten to their spot because that camera guy's in the way. So little bugs like that get in the way. But all in all, I mean, the game is everybody moves to their positions. Everything seems realistic. Everything runs realistically. And you can just sit here and watch a game play, right? This is all just CPU versus CPU. See, the controllers aren't even being touched. And that's exciting because anybody who wants to do like their own little management game or league and they just want these play as a coach, you can play as a coach also and let these players just, play on their own, and you can just manage your team and let the AI just do its thing. So there's a lot of potential here. And then here's where, it obviously breaks again. That's why it's frozen. But I'm really excited because now you can play either one player or two player. You can play with any controller you want. You can play, CPU versus CPU or, two player locally. So I'm really, really, really excited about this. And today I'm going to keep working to get the other plays working for offense and defense. And I know I'm going to have bugs. I know I'm going to have issues, but this is all part of the process. So today's Thursday and I'm going to keep coding away and kicking things off and try to see how far I can get. All right, so after some coding, I was able to get the offensive play somewhat working, and I also had to fix the training camp because I know these are all breaking right now because of the way, all the changes that I've been making to add two player and whatever. So, but I got the offensive training camp working where you can go and pick your offense, and you see it's working with the controller now. So you can actually go in and out of here and, pick whatever formation, whatever play you want, depending on the category or whatever play type. And you can actually pick the play and the players line up. The players will, go to the play. I'm not sure if they're in the right formations or not. I think that they are. This is an I form, I think power formation. But if you look, the play art is nowhere near what it needs to be. There's also some bugs here because I don't see the player meter in here. And like underneath your player, I don't see the round circle player meter. And the play art is not the right play art. So let's just pick one here that we can identify. So this is like a single back, 4 wide. Let's see if they line up correctly. So the formations are correct, which is good, right? But the play art is not the right play because it's still picking random. The way it's working now is the way it was working before, which is picking random plays, random routes, and it's not using the actual play. So I'm going to work on that next, but I'm making progress and it's looking better now, at least in this training mode. And then from here, I will try to get the play to actually show up and keep on moving. It's Friday morning, and yesterday I really just went through all of the code as much as I could and tried to get different things fixed that were breaking with the gameplay. There were all sorts of things that I had to work on to get the plays to actually to get the game to actually play with these new changes that I'm making, because I'm blowing everything up, and now I'm just showing you here the computer versus computer. So now the computer's playing versus the computer, and you could just sit here and watch it, which is kind of cool. I mean, it's the first time that I've been able to do that. You can actually play 1 versus 2 player, or CPU versus human. So everything is somewhat working, but I'm still finding some bugs that are cropping up where, like, the strategies, like the defense, like both teams will be on the same side of the field. Like they'll both try to be on offense or they'll both be on defense. And there's things that I'm seeing that I've seen before when I was working on it originally with the original play calling system, and managing those strategies and making sure that each team is It's picking the right plays and everything was always kind of a headache for me. But like I said, it seems to be working about 90%. And what I don't have yet is the actual the plays. So like, even though you're picking the plays, you can actually see the playbooks. They're showing up. So that's all kind of working now for offense, defense, and kicking and special teams. But when you pick the actual play, all you're really picking is the formation up to now. You're not actually picking the routes. So today I'm going to work on as much as I can. And I have an appointment today with the dentist, so I'm going to be, in and out. But the goal for today is to try to get the plays actually running as the real play that you pick. So if you run a screen pass, they're going to throw the screen pass. If you run, like a running play, you're going to get that. And then also try to start fixing those bugs, because those bugs can really just like stick to you and never go away. And a lot of times it happens when there's a turnover or a safety or an interception or something like that, or a fumble or a touchdown. I mean, sometimes when those things happen, that's when the bug typically crops up, when you're changing sides. So that's what I'm going to be working on today, and we'll see how far I can get. I always try to do updates throughout the day as much as I can, but there's just so much to do with this, with this part of the project that I'm working on, that it's a lot of coding. So I'm going to get back to that, and hopefully I can get you some updates soon today, and I can make some progress, because it's the end of the week. So we'll see. All right, so my day was spent working on some weird issues as I was testing the gameplay. I'm continuing to find some weird issues. Some are pre-existing issues that I really didn't know I had that were wrong. So things like the interceptions and the fumbles. And so I have some new fumble tests that I need to run through. And what makes it hard with a football game, which is why people don't do football games, is because to test fumbles, you have to get the scenarios created, right? You have to test all different types of scenarios, whether you're in your own end zone and you fumble outside of it, or is it a touchback? Is it a safety? What happens during a kickoff and a punt versus a regular play? I mean, all of the rules that take into account when you're dealing with a sports game, especially a football game, with all the chaos and all the things that are going on in the game, you have to put code in for that, right? I have to put logic that will determine where the ball goes and what rules to apply and etc. So I'm finding some pre-existing issues, and I thought I had them fixed. I thought I had some of this stuff working, but at the end of the day, I didn't probably test as well as I could have. So now what I did is I created some tests for fumbling. I created tests for interceptions. I've already got them completed. And now I'm going to keep pushing with the fumbles. And the hard part is I have to get the game to kind of, fumble the right way in all the different places so that I can make sure they all work. Now, I know this is really anal and OCD, and I put a tweet out about how, dealing with penalties is a pain, and I want to give up sometimes and just not have penalties, or rules like that in the game. But I'm going to do that because that's the way that I think the game should play. I want the game to be, have some simulation aspects. It's not going to have every rule and every penalty, but it's going to have things that if you're going to put fumbles, it better give you the right outcome. So that's how I ended my week. Next week, I'm going to be gone for a few days because I need to go on a family visit, but I will be working towards the end of the week. So I probably won't have a video. If I do, it'll be a short video. But I'm going to keep pushing with this gameplay stuff. It's a huge undertaking. I've thrown a grenade into my code, and I have to get this stuff working for the multiple players to work, CPU versus CPU, all that good stuff I've been talking about this week. And then also the play calling to get the actual plays that you're picking to be what you see on the field. So when I get back next week from my little 3-day hiatus, I'm going to keep working, and I will be updating you guys as I go. So thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already and you want to follow along. Hit that like button. Throw some comments, throw your feedback. Do you think I need penalties? Do you think I need this kind of stuff in the game? And I will catch you guys sometime late next week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.